A mother left her baby. What happened 15 years later will shock you. I remember those early years like you remember a warm house in winter. Not every detail is sharp, but the feeling stays. Safe, steady, ours. We were young, but not reckless. We didn't rush into marriage because of pressure or romance novels or fear of being alone. We chose each other the way people used to, after watching, after weighing, after deciding that life would be better if we pulled in the same direction. Back then, mornings were quiet in the best way. The kind of quiet that doesn't mean distance, just comfort. I'd wake up before her most days, make coffee, open the window a crack, even in winter, because she liked fresh air. She'd come into the kitchen with sleep still in her eyes, hair a mess, wearing one of my shirts like it belonged to her, which, in a way, it did. We talked about small things. Groceries, weekend plans, what show we were watching next. There was no tension in those conversations, no double meanings. Just two people sharing a load. We lived in a modest place then. Nothing fancy. A small apartment with creaky floors and neighbors who argued too loud. But it was ours. We painted the walls ourselves, hung crooked shelves, laughed when things didn't line up. I remember her sitting on the floor, surrounded by boxes the day we moved in, smiling like she'd already pictured our whole future there. We worked hard, both of us. I had my job, steady and honest. She had hers. We weren't rich, but we weren't struggling either. Bills were paid on time. The fridge was full. That kind of stability does something to a marriage. It lets you breathe. Evenings were my favorite. We'd cook together most nights. Nothing fancy. Pasta, soups, things that filled the stomach and warmed the bones. Music playing low. Sometimes we danced in the kitchen, slow and awkward, laughing when we bumped into chairs. No audience. No performance. Just us. When she got pregnant, it wasn't panic that hit me. It was purpose. I still remember the moment she told me. She stood in the doorway, holding that little test like it was fragile. Her eyes were wide, not scared, just searching my face. I didn't say anything at first. I just walked over and hugged her, long and tight. I felt taller somehow, heavier in a good way. We planned everything together. Doctor visits, baby names, rearranging the apartment. She'd lie on the couch with one hand on her stomach, talking to our unborn child like it could already hear her. I used to sit beside her, listening, thinking how lucky I was to witness that kind of tenderness up close. She was beautiful then in a way that had nothing to do with looks. She glowed, sure, but more than that, she was grounded, focused, proud. She talked about the kind of mother she wanted to be. Patient, present, strong. I believed every word. Our daughter arrived on a quiet morning. No drama, no chaos, just a long night that ended with the sound of a new life crying into the world. I remember holding that tiny body, thinking my hands had never done anything more important. Those first months were exhausting. Anyone who says otherwise is lying. Sleepless nights, bottles, diapers, worry over every cough and twitch. But we were a team. When one of us was worn down, the other stepped in. No resentment, no scorekeeping. I'd come home from work tired, and she'd hand me the baby like it was the most natural thing in the world. I'd rock her daughter while she took a shower or just sat in silence for 10 minutes. Sometimes we fell asleep on the couch together, the baby between us, the TV still on. We talked about the future then, big things, schools, vacations we'd take someday, the kind of values we wanted to teach, honesty, responsibility, respect. I never saw the cracks coming. Looking back, people like to say the signs were always there. Maybe that's true in other stories. Not in this one. Not in the beginning. What we had was real, solid, built on routine and trust and shared effort. We laughed easily. We disagreed without cruelty. We forgave quickly. There were moments, small, ordinary moments, that still sit heavy in my chest now. Watching her push the stroller down the street in the evening light. Hearing her hum while she folded laundry. Seeing her smile when our daughter wrapped her tiny fingers around one of ours. That's the part people don't understand when they talk about abandonment like it's sudden. You don't lose someone all at once. First, you build a life so complete that you can't imagine it breaking. And for a long time, I didn't imagine it at all. Back then, if you'd asked me who she was, I would have said, my wife, my partner, the mother of my child, the woman I trusted with everything I had. And I meant it. That's what makes the quiet before the storm so dangerous. It convinces you the sky will always stay clear. But storms don't announce themselves. They wait. It didn't happen all at once. That's the part that still messes with my head. There was no dramatic moment where she slammed a door and said she was done. No shouting. No announcement. Just absence. Quiet, creeping absence, right there in the same room. At first, I thought I was imagining it. Our daughter was still tiny, 6 months old, all soft sounds and late nights and routines that ran on instinct more than logic. Babies don't give you space to overthink. They need you now, every time. And in the beginning, she'd been right there with me. Worn down, but present. Then something shifted. It started small. She'd sit on the couch while the baby cried in the crib and not move right away. Not because she couldn't hear it, because she did. I could see it in her face. She'd flinch, just a little, like the sound hurt her, then stare at her phone or the wall like she was waiting for it to stop on its own. I told myself she was tired. Then she stopped doing the nighttime feedings. Not officially. She never said, "I can't do this anymore." She'd just fall asleep earlier. Or say she had a headache. Or say, "Can you get her? I just got her last time," even when she hadn't. I kept track at first. Not to accuse, just to understand. I thought maybe if I could see a pattern, I could fix it. That's how my brain works. If something breaks, I look for the loose screw. Soon I stopped counting. She didn't rush to the crib anymore when the baby cried. Didn't light up when she smiled. When our daughter reached out with those clumsy little hands, she hesitated before picking her up, like she wasn't sure what to do with them. That scared me, but I didn't say that out loud. Instead, I told myself what a lot of men tell themselves in that situation. This is postpartum depression. I'd read about it, heard about it. I knew it could look different for different women. Withdrawal, emotional distance, exhaustion. So I leaned in harder. I took over more. Diapers, baths, feedings, laundry, grocery runs. I made excuses for her without her asking. Told family she was tired. Told friends she needed space. I said it so often I started believing it like gospel. She stopped holding the baby unless I handed her over directly. And even then, she'd sit stiff, eyes unfocused, like she was babysitting a stranger's child. Sometimes she'd hand her back after a minute and say, "She doesn't like me today." Babies don't work like that. But I didn't argue. I started coming home earlier from work. Not because I had to, because I didn't trust the quiet. I'd open the door and listen before stepping inside. Sometimes the baby was crying, red-faced and hoarse. Sometimes she was silent in the crib, while my wife sat in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone. "Did she just wake up?" I'd ask. "Yeah, a minute ago." She'd say too fast. I learned to read time by sound, by pitch, by the way a cry settles into a rhythm when it's been going on too long. I told myself I was being paranoid. One afternoon, I found our daughter lying in the crib with a soaked diaper, staring at the ceiling. Not crying, just waiting. That look, quiet resignation in a body too small to understand it, hit me harder than any scream. I changed her, held her, walked her back and forth until she fell asleep on my chest. My wife stood in the doorway watching us like we were a scene from a movie she didn't feel part of. She didn't make a sound, she said. That wasn't relief in her voice. It was distance. That night, I finally said it. Carefully, gently, like you say something you're afraid will break if you touch it wrong. "I think you might be dealing with postpartum depression." She didn't get angry, didn't cry, didn't deny it either. She just nodded, like I named something she already knew existed but didn't want to look at. "Maybe," she said. I suggested a doctor. Therapy. Help. Support groups. I told her it didn't mean she was weak. I told her we'd get through it together. I meant every word. She agreed to nothing and everything at the same time. "I'll think about it," she said. And that was that. Days went by, then weeks. She didn't schedule an appointment, didn't ask questions, didn't read anything I left on the table. She just drifted further away. She started going out more. Short trips at first. Just a walk. Just coffee. Then longer stretches. She'd leave while the baby slept and come back after she'd eaten, bathed, and been put down by me. I didn't stop her. I told myself space was part of healing. I told myself I was being supportive. I told myself a lot of things. But the truth is, somewhere deep down, I felt something colder than fear. I felt replaced, not by another person, but by nothing. Like she decided motherhood was a room she didn't want to be in anymore and just stepped outside, leaving the door open. The house got quieter in the wrong way. No more humming. No more talking to the baby. No more asking how her day went, because she wasn't really there for one to happen. She existed around us, not with us. I started taking pictures, not for memories, proof. Proof that her daughter smiled, that she rolled over, that she learned to grab my finger. I sent them to my wife's phone, even when she was in the same house. Sometimes she responded with a heart emoji. Sometimes nothing. I stopped sleeping deeply. I listened for everything. The baby's breathing, the front door, the sound of keys. I learned how to function on broken rest and stubborn love. I didn't resent my daughter. Not for a second. If anything, she anchored me, gave me purpose when everything else felt unsteady. I told myself, as long as she's okay, I can handle anything. What I didn't know then, what I couldn't admit, was that I was already living like a single parent with a married title. And the hardest part wasn't the work. It was watching the woman I trusted most slowly choose not to reach for her own child, and telling myself it was temporary, medical, fixable. Because once you stop believing that, you have to face a different truth. And I wasn't ready for that yet. There's a strange relief when the truth finally shows up. Not the kind that makes you happy, just the kind that lets you stop guessing. I remember the night it happened, because nothing about it looked important at first. No argument, no raised voices, just a Tuesday. Same walls, same couch, same baby monitor glowing on the side table like it always did. Our daughter was asleep. I just finished cleaning bottles, moving quiet the way you learn to when sleep feels fragile and hard-earned. She was sitting on the couch, phone in her hand, dressed like she was going somewhere. Not fancy, just not home. Jeans, makeup done, hair fixed with intention. That should have told me enough. I asked, "You heading out?" She sighed. Not annoyed, not rushed, just tired of me, of the question, of the life we were standing in. "I need to talk," she said. Those words usually come with emotion. Fear, tears. This time they came flat. Practiced. Like she'd rehearsed them in her head during all those long walks and late coffees. I sat down across from her. Didn't touch her. Something in me already knew distance was the point. "I can't do this anymore," she said. I asked what this meant, even though I already knew. "All of it," she said, gesturing vaguely around the room. The couch. The baby monitor. The life we built piece by piece. "I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I feel like I disappeared." I told her I knew it had been hard. That the baby stage takes everything out of you. That we could get help. That things change. That it wouldn't always feel like this. She shook her head before I finished. "No," she said. "You don't get it." That was the first honest sentence she'd spoken in months. "I'm still young," she continued. "I don't want to live like this. Every day is the same. Crying, feeding, schedules. I look at myself, and I don't recognize who I am anymore." I waited for her to mention the baby with warmth, or guilt, or conflict. She didn't. "I want to go out," she said. "I want to have fun. I want to feel alive again. I don't want to plan my life around naps and diapers." I told her plenty of parents felt that way sometimes. That it didn't mean she was broken. That it didn't mean she had to walk away. She looked at me then. Really looked at me. And that's when she said the part that landed hardest. "I fell out of love with you." No hesitation. No apology. Just a statement. Like she was telling me the weather. I didn't ask how, or when, or why. Those questions don't change anything once that sentence exists in the room. I asked about our daughter. She hesitated then. Just a beat. Enough to hurt. "I don't feel like a mother," she said. "And pretending is killing me." I asked if she loved her. She didn't say no. She didn't say yes either. She said, "I'm not cut out for this." That was the moment postpartum depression fell apart in my head. Depression comes with pain, with guilt, with a desire to be better even when you can't. What she was describing wasn't pain, it was preference. She wasn't drowning. She was choosing a different shore. She told me she didn't want to be tied down, that she missed being spontaneous, that she hated how serious everything felt, that she watched her friends online going out, laughing, living, and felt like she'd made a mistake too early. She said, "I'm only going to be young once. I didn't raise my voice, didn't beg, didn't threaten. I just listened because once someone talks like that, arguing is pointless. You're not part of the equation anymore. You're an obstacle. I asked her what she wanted. She said she needed space, time, freedom. I asked where that left our child. She looked away. I don't know, she said, but I can't stay here out of obligation. That word, obligation, wrapped itself around my chest and squeezed. I realized then that everything I'd been doing, covering for her, protecting her, absorbing the weight, had made it easier for her to detach. I had built a bridge for her exit without knowing it. She stood up, grabbed her jacket. I'm going out, she said. I need air. She didn't ask if the baby was okay. She didn't kiss her forehead. She didn't look back. The door closed softly behind her. I sat there in the quiet, staring at the baby monitor, watching our daughter's chest rise and fall. Steady, trusting, completely unaware that one of the two people she depended on had just decided she wasn't enough reason to stay. That night, I didn't cry. I cleaned the kitchen, folded laundry, checked the locks, moved through the house like a man already practicing how to do everything alone. Because somewhere between I'm tired and I fell out of love with you, something inside me hardened. I stopped trying to save a marriage. At first, I thought the silence was temporary. The first few days after she left were strange, but not frightening yet. No messages, no calls. I told myself she needed time to cool off. Space. That word she liked so much. I didn't chase her. I figured if I stayed calm, steady, she'd come back ready to talk like an adult. A week passed. Then two. I sent one message. Short, neutral, about our daughter. Just facts. Doctor appointment. New formula. A picture of her smiling in the bath, bubbles on her nose. No reply. That's when the truth stopped being theoretical and started becoming practical. I stopped checking my phone every 5 minutes. Stopped expecting the door to open. Life doesn't wait for closure, especially when there's a child involved. Diapers still needed changing. Bottles still needed warming. Nights still came whether I was ready or not. So I adjusted. I learned how to function on broken sleep without complaining. Learned which cries meant hunger and which meant fear. Learned how to carry her on my shoulder while cooking one-handed. Learned that some days success meant everyone was fed and breathing, and that was enough. My parents stepped in quietly, the way good people do when they see someone drowning but don't want to embarrass him. My mother showed up with meals already labeled and frozen. My father fixed things around the apartment that I hadn't noticed were broken. They never asked why she left. Never blamed. They just showed up. Friends did the same. One buddy took night shifts sometimes, sitting on the couch with a baby monitor so I could get 4 straight hours of sleep. Another came by on Sundays just to talk about normal things, sports, work, stupid jokes, like reminding me I was still a person, not just a function. No one said, "I told you so." No one asked if I'd failed. That mattered more than they knew. Weeks turned into months. Still no word from her. No checking in. No asking how the baby was doing. Not even a birthday message when our daughter turned 1. That one hurt more than I expected. I took a picture of her smashing cake in her hair and almost sent it, then didn't. I realized I was still trying to include someone who'd chosen not to be there. So I stopped. I filed paperwork, changed routines, built a life that didn't depend on someone who'd already walked away. The house got quieter, but it also got more honest. No waiting, no guessing. Just me and a child who trusted me with everything. And I didn't fail her. I showed up every day. I learned patience I didn't know I had. Learned how strong love gets when there's no backup plan. When you're the last line, and the first one too. There were nights I sat on the floor after she fell asleep, back against the crib, feeling the weight of it all pressed down hard. But even then, I didn't regret staying. I regretted believing someone else would. Eventually, people stopped asking about her. They started asking about us, how we were doing, what milestone she'd hit, what her favorite toy was. Life moved forward because it had to, and somewhere along the way, I stopped feeling abandoned. I felt forged, because raising a child alone doesn't break you if you do it with intention. It strips you down to what matters and burns off the rest. She chose silence. I chose responsibility. And those two choices shaped everything that came next. Time doesn't heal things the way people like to say it does. It doesn't erase. It builds, layer by layer, Habit by habit, day by day, it turned survival into structure. Years passed. Not fast, not slow, just steady. I stopped measuring my life by what I'd lost and started measuring it by what I was responsible for. That shift changed everything. My daughter grew the way kids do when they're loved, without conditions, confident, curious, grounded. She learned early that if she called my name, I came. Every time, no delay, no excuses. That kind of reliability settles into a child's bones. We had routines, morning ones, bedtime ones, little traditions nobody else knew about. Pancakes on Saturdays, even when I was tired. Reading the same book 3 times in a row because she asked. Walking to school together when she was old enough, her hand wrapped around my finger like it belonged there. People used to tell me, "You're doing great considering." I hated that word. There was no considering. This wasn't a consolation version of life. This was life, and I treated it with respect. I changed too, not in a loud way, in a quiet, permanent one. I became more patient, less impressed by charm, allergic to excuses. I stopped chasing validation and started valuing consistency. I learned that love isn't something you feel, it's something you do, especially when nobody's watching. My circle got smaller, but stronger. Friends who stayed showed me who they really were. My parents aged into that gentle role grandparents do when they see something fragile handled well. They were proud of me, not because I endured, but because I didn't harden. My daughter and I talked about everything, age-appropriate truths, honest answers. When she asked about her mother, I didn't poison the well. I didn't lie either. I said what mattered. Some people leave. Some people stay. I stayed. And that was enough. She grew into a kid who trusted herself, who spoke up, who knew she wasn't too much and never invisible. Teachers noticed. Other parents noticed. I noticed most of all in the way she slept, peacefully, like someone who wasn't waiting for the floor to drop. As for me, I built a life that didn't need repairing. Work was steady. The house felt like a home, not a holding place. I laughed again, not the forced kind, but the real kind that surprises you. I even loved again, eventually, but that came with rules. Boundaries. Standards carved from experience, not fear. I didn't look back often, but when I did, I didn't feel bitterness anymore. I felt clarity. She left because she wanted freedom. I stayed and learned what freedom actually costs, and what it gives back. Years later, when my daughter walks into a room, she doesn't scan for who's missing. She looks for who's there. That's the difference. That's the legacy. I didn't raise her alone. I raised her deliberately. And the man standing here now, the one who didn't beg, didn't break, didn't abandon what mattered, he's someone I respect. That took time. That took grit. And it took walking forward without waiting for someone who made their choice long ago. I knew something was wrong the moment I saw the car. It was late afternoon, that soft hour when the day slows down and shadows stretch across the driveway. I just got home from work. My daughter was inside, doing homework at the kitchen table, backpack slung over the chair like it always was. Life was normal, solid. Then I saw her standing there. For a second, my brain rejected it. Muscle memory fired before logic. Same posture, same way of holding her arms close to her body when she was nervous. Older, thinner, worn around the edges, but unmistakably her. 15 years. That's how long it had been since she walked out without looking back. 15 years of silence. 15 years of birthdays missed. First words. First steps. School plays. Tears. Triumphs. All of it. And now she was on my front porch like time had just paused. I didn't rush. I didn't freeze either. I walked up slow, keys still in my hand, heart steady in a way that surprised me. This wasn't panic. It was assessment. The kind you learn when life has trained you not to react, only to respond. She turned when she heard me. Our eyes met. She looked relieved, like she'd been holding her breath for years, and finally found the place she thought would let her exhale. "Hi," she said. Just that. No name. No apology. No explanation. I nodded once. "You shouldn't be here." Her face cracked. Not dramatically, just enough to show the weight she'd been carrying finally had somewhere to land. "I know," she said, "but I didn't know where else to go." That told me everything I needed to know. People don't come back because they're strong. They come back because something didn't work out, because the road they chose ran out of answers. She talked, fast at first, about therapy, about mistakes, about how she'd thought about us every day, about how she'd grown, learned, changed. I listened the same way I listened to the weather report, aware but not invested. When she finally stopped, she looked at me like she expected something. Forgiveness, anger, tears, a door opening. Instead, I asked one question. Why now? She hesitated. That pause mattered. I'm tired, she said. I don't have anything anymore. And I realized I made the biggest mistake of my life. There it was. Not I hurt you. Not I abandoned our child. No, I'm sorry. Just regret about her life. I felt something then, but it wasn't rage. It wasn't satisfaction either. It was distance. The kind you feel when someone is standing in front of you, but belongs to another lifetime. You don't get to come back because you're tired, I said calmly. You left because you wanted freedom. You don't get to treat us like a fallback plan. She asked about our daughter. I told her she was inside, that she was safe, that she was strong, that she had a good life. She asked if she could see her. I didn't answer right away, because that door wasn't mine alone to open. And that was the moment she finally understood something she hadn't back then, that she wasn't walking back into the same house she left. This wasn't a man waiting to be chosen. This was a father who had already chosen. She thought the hard part was finding the courage to come back. It wasn't. The hard part was realizing courage doesn't buy you access to lives you walked away from. I didn't invite her inside that first day. We talked on the porch, like strangers finishing unfinished business. The house behind me wasn't just wooden walls. It was my daughter's safe ground. I wasn't about to let uncertainty step over that threshold. She asked again if she could see her. I told her the truth. Not dressed up, not softened. She doesn't know you, I said. Not the way you think. Her face twisted like I'd slapped her. I'm her mother. You're her birth mother, I said evenly. That's not the same thing. That's what she got defensive. People always do when reality doesn't bend. I didn't stop loving her, she said. I just wasn't ready back then. I nodded, and I wasn't ready to raise a child alone. But here we are. Silence fell between us, the kind that forces people to look inward instead of talking their way out. I told her how things would work, if they worked at all. No surprise visits. No promises to a child she couldn't keep. No rewriting history to make herself feel better. And most important of all, my daughter would decide. Not me. Not her. The child she left. She didn't like that. She said it wasn't fair to put that kind of weight on a teenager. That I was poisoning her against her. That's when my patience thinned, not into anger, but into steel. You forfeited fairness the day you stopped calling, I said. You don't get to rush healing because guilt is uncomfortable. That landed. She cried then. Real tears this time. Not the dramatic kind, just quiet, exhausted ones. She said she'd changed, that she wasn't that woman. I believed she'd changed. What she didn't understand was that change doesn't undo absence. I told her I'd talk to my daughter. I would explain who she was in a way that didn't hurt or confuse her. And then, only then, if my daughter wanted to meet her, we'd arrange it. Slowly, safely, on neutral ground. No overnight visits. No playing house. No starting over. You don't start over with a child. You start where you left off. And in her case, that was 15 years behind the starting line. Before she left, she asked me something that surprised me. How did you do it, she said. How did you manage all those years alone? I didn't answer right away. Then I said, I didn't have a choice. That's the difference. She nodded like she understood. I wasn't sure she really did. When I went back inside, my daughter looked up from the table. She knew something was different. Kids always do. Who was that? She asked. I sat down across from her. Took a breath. That, I said, was someone from a long time ago. She studied my face. Is she important? I thought about it. She was, I said, once. That was enough for that day. But I knew the real test wasn't over. Because the past had a way of knocking twice. And the second time, it never comes quietly. I told my daughter the next morning. Not dramatically. Not like a confession. Just the truth, delivered the way I always delivered things to her. Straight, respectful, without trying to steer her feelings. There's a woman who gave birth to you, I said. She came by yesterday. She didn't react right away. She just nodded, like she was filing the information away before deciding what it meant. Is she why it was just us? She asked. That question told me everything about the kind of person she'd become. No anger, no fear, just clarity. Yes, I said. She left when you were very little. She was quiet for a long moment, then asked, does she want something? I didn't lie. She wants to meet you. That's when she finally looked up at me. Really looked. What do you think? She asked. I felt something in my chest then. Pride. Respect. A kind of quiet victory. Because that question meant she trusted me, but didn't need me to decide for her. I think, I said carefully, that whatever you choose, I'll stand with you. She nodded again. Then she surprised me. I'll meet her, she said. Once. We set rules. Her idea as much as mine. Public place. Short meeting. I'd be there. She could leave whenever she wanted. No explanations owed. When the day came, I watched her walk into that cafe taller than I ever was at her age. Calm. Grounded. No drama in her steps. Her mother stood when she saw her. Hands shaking. Eyes full. Hope written all over her face like it was a debt she thought might finally be paid. My daughter sat down. Hi, she said. They talked. Her mother tried to fill the space with stories about her journey, her therapy, how she'd thought about her every day. She cried, apologized, said she'd made terrible mistakes. My daughter listened politely. Then she asked one question. Where were you when I needed you? The answer wasn't good enough. It never could be. The meeting didn't explode. There was no shouting, no cruelty, just a quiet realization settling into the air. Biology had brought them to the same table, but history sat between them like a wall. When it was over, my daughter stood up. I'm glad you're okay, she said, but I already have a parent. I don't need another one. Her mother broke down then, but my daughter didn't waver. She hugged her once, brief, careful, and walked back to me. In the car, she didn't cry. I don't hate her, she said. I just don't miss her. That was the end of it. Some stories don't end with reunions. They end with understanding. She tried to come back, but we didn't need her anymore. I didn't feel triumph. I felt peace. Because the life I built, the nights, the sacrifices, the years of choosing responsibility over escape, had done what it was supposed to do. My daughter grew up knowing exactly who stayed. And so did I.